What is going on, YouTube? This is post-recording Brandon in my hoodie and glasses chilling. Just want to let you know we just got done with a long match review conversation with the man, Joe Tweeds. It's out right now. You can get on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Overcast, wherever you get podcasts, Spotify. Go check it out. It's about an hour and a half long. We talked much more in depth about these topics you're watching the video, as well as kind of Frank's season overall. So again, go check it out. Let us know if you like it. This is just a clip, full podcast out and available. Otherwise, more clips will be coming at you this week. But we got Matt Law coming at you. We got Sevilla match review, and we got the Manchester United match preview. It's going to be a big week, so we hope you enjoy. Make sure to subscribe. Well, obviously, speed to success is what we all expect day one. You know, Nick, it is the second season. We have made a lot of changes to the squad. There are a couple things I think that we're still seeing that haven't changed, you know, but when I look at the Premier League table, right, we're tied for the third most goals scored, all right, with 13. Tottenham has scored 15, Everton have 14, Liverpool are 13, we have 13. We've conceded 9, though, which is far more than all of those teams, except Liverpool, who are scored 13, conceded 13 because they got pummeled by Villa. You know,
yeah. I mean, let's take the odd one out, right? Like,
so that puts us on 8 points versus 13, 10, 10 for those teams, and a much healthier goal difference. It seems like we're so close to, like, we're on the precipice, the edge of being a monster team, but we're conceding consistently. And the shape, the transition, whatever it may be, set pieces, it's still haunting us, and it's keeping us from being a great team like we all want us and see that we can be, I think.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to talk formation here next, so I'm not going to pound that too hard here. I think Joe's made a myriad of good points there, so just go listen to that again and digest. I think one of the things that kind of came up to me yesterday, and then also while Joe was talking, just kind of validated it, was there's a certain amount of imposter syndrome to this team. And if you don't know what imposter syndrome is, it's essentially, it's a kind of a mental thing that you can do the job, but you don't feel like you're able to do the job as well as someone else. So you feel like you're an imposter in a role. And I even get this sometime at work, right? I work in a creative ad agency, and there are times where even though I've done a job 100 times, I don't know if I can do it again, right? Or I get, kind of anxious about that. So there's a little bit of imposter syndrome to this team, where I think there are the tools there to have a really good squad. I think we have really smart managers, maybe not as experienced, to Joe's point, as we would need at this point, but the ingredients are there to make a really good dish, right? Do the players all have confidence and the will, and does the management staff drill into them that they are world beaters, like Mourinho did to Lampard back in the day, one of the most famous Chelsea stories of all time? That's the thing that I'm a little bit worried about, because if one thing goes wrong with this team, it seems like they all kind of lose it a little bit. It's a fragile ecosystem. When things are flying, it's amazing. And when we face adversity, like we did against West Brom, there can be a response. So I don't want to discredit it altogether. I think there's a balance to this. But to me, I think there's just some fragility there, and maybe a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I couldn't agree more on last point here on the, part of the imposter syndrome to me is Lampard wanting to be Pep, or to have a really incredible, style of play where everyone makes him out to be the genius. I think there's a little bit of ego involved there, but it is clear that we are not Man City in the way that we play. It's clear that we're not Barcelona in the way that we play. I made this point 3 weeks ago, but I don't think you have to be Man City or Barcelona to play exciting football. I don't think Lampard has to be the second coming of Pep Guardiola to be acknowledged as a top tier manager. So I want that thought to go away, that you have to have a Lionel Messi, or you have to have a incredible manager to be a really fun, exciting team to watch. I mean, most people love the way that Atalanta played last year, right? it was a fun, exciting new approach. And I think they got a lot of credit for the way that they defended as well as the way that they attacked. And Lampard would know this more than any other player, Dan, because he played in some sides that were dire in possession, but had amazing counterattacking ability. And to me, I think that there needs to be a bigger balance in a team. We'll talk about that in formation, obviously. But this team has all the components to really be exciting. And I don't think they have to be a copy paste of another team's formation or system or style of play to do it.
I agree with that. It makes a ton of sense. And I think the challenge is that there's this adoration for Frank Lampard, the player. And I think it's very hard to separate an assessment of arguably Chelsea's best player of all time, depending upon what era you grew up and your personal affection and what stats you value more than the other. He is at least in the running in every conversation as he's on the Mount Rushmore of best Chelsea players, if it were. But I do think it's fair to ask questions when things are repeating without being fixed. But this is all we're doing. We're not saying Frank Lampard is going to be a terrible manager. We're not saying that Frank Lampard should be out of Chelsea tomorrow. What we're saying is Frank Lampard, in wanting to get the results that we all want, which is to be competitive and challenge for the Premier League title, to get deep into the Champions League, most likely to win it this year, but who knows, stranger things have happened, ultimately has to start addressing things that continue to repeat time and time again. We continue to see, and this is something I called out when we were in our group chat with Joe the other day, is I actually think the ruthlessness that we have assigned to Frank Lampard is actually a little overstated as Frank Lampard, the manager. I think the ruthlessness of Frank Lampard, the player, the no holds barred, the kind of the drive, the commitment, the determination. We've seen Kepa get dropped and Kepa brought back into the lineup. We've seen Christensen have bad performances and Christensen continues to get the start ahead of someone like Fikayo Tomori. And look, all of these things in isolation are just additional data points. When you kind of cull them all together, this concern becomes is how quickly will Frank develop that ruthlessness that we talked about, and get these players to avoid the individual errors, or to put and really individual errors are caused, I think Joe made this point perfectly, they're caused by players being put in positions that they are not set up for success. Being a manager, this is something I kind of have to deal with at work in a much different and not publicly visible situation. So definitely don't have the same struggles that Frank does of having to do it on a stage for millions and millions of people. But you have to assess your talent and say, hey, I know that this individual is going to be really successful at this thing. And yeah, occasionally you give them a stretch assignment, or maybe someone's out and you kind of need to take advantage of maybe a skill set or grow them in a different area. But if we know that our team does not do well in being pressed against, well, you have to negate that and allow the players to be in a position where they can be successful. Zuma does not do well being pressed down and distributing out. Jorginho does not do well when he gets pressed. And we saw that happen. And what didn't happen for another 15, 20, 30 minutes after that is we didn't see the substitutions come in to address the concern in this match yesterday. And again, this is an isolation, Brandon. It's one match. But I think it's fair to ask questions and to look at it as an element of being maybe a bit disappointed that they're not being addressed when it seems like the problems are more evident than they were last season, or they were even at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we didn't care, we wouldn't be concerned, right? We're not going to live in a fake world where it's like, hey, Lampard means perfection, and we scored 3 goals. Okay, well, at the end of the day, you didn't beat Southampton, and you scored 3 goals. We were leading, peg back, leading, peg back, leading, peg back. And this is something we've seen. Or we go down and we have to chase the match. And so we just need some effort and some consistency in a different part of the team. And again, we're not going to blindly follow. We are going to passionately follow, and we are going to loyally follow. But again, this isn't an echo chamber of perfection here. And so I think part of it is the optimal lineup, right? A huge concern, I still can't shake it, was the 56 lineups in 60 matches stat that we heard. That scares me.
It's wild.
Like,
it's wild, dude.
There's no team chemistry. There's no consistency. You're not settled. To me, it's like Frank's overreacting to things where he's like, nope, got to change this, got to change this. Oh, I can tweak this for this match and this for that. It's like, it's too much tinkering in giving this team an ability to settle.